Hello, friends. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick Desmos tutorial just for the application of using this for during WoolyCon. You don't have to do anything fancy with your classes, and I'm going to show you how it works. So if I click and follow the link to get to one of these activities, like this one's called Illustrating Emotion, I am going to create an account or sign in. I'll go ahead and create an account. I'm just going to sign in with Google because that's the easiest thing for me to do. Ideally, if you have Google Classroom, it is so slick if you just sync your classes. If you don't have Google Classroom, that's okay too. I'll show you how to do it totally without Google Classroom. I'll use my regular email. Now you know what it is. You can email me. So now I've got this activity available to me. You can preview any of these screens just by clicking on it, and it'll pop up nice and big. But the first thing I want to do is assign it to my classes. So if I do not have any intention of syncing this with my Google Classroom, I'm going to go to this little drop-down arrow under Assign and assign a single session code. I think it's best to have a separate code for each class section that you have. It'll keep the names and the students more easily organized. So single session code, I want it active for 2 weeks. Create invitation code. So this little code right here, 4G6N3C, I will share with my students either by writing it on the board, dropping it in the Zoom chat, sharing it in Classroom, whatever is the easiest way for you to get that to them. Students will go to desmos.com and they will probably say, this looks like a math website. I don't need a graphing calculator. And you will say, you're in the right place. They're going to put that code right here. If your students are on Google Classroom and you assigned it to a class after you imported it, they're just going to go to student homepage instead, and then they'll be able to see all of the different activities that you've assigned to them. But for now, we'll take a peek at what it's going to look like when students get in there. I am actually going to go to the dashboard. Let's say my students joined this class. As a teacher, when I click the dashboard, that's what's going to let me see in real time their responses to the questions. My internet's a little wonky just because I'm screen recording right now too, but usually it's really, really quick compared to a lot of other things. So my students would have gone to student.desmos.com and put in the code, blah, blah, blah. And when your students get in here, the names will start popping up along the side here. There is a super easy teacher guide, so you can read through that if you need extra explanations. When I am doing things where I might show students my screen and therefore other people's answers, I like to click Anonymize. You can always click it back and it'll show you the names again, but when you click Anonymize, it'll randomly assign them a name of a famous mathematician. So that, today we're going to be doing drawings and maybe speech bubbles. Some students don't really like for you to know which work is theirs. Some of them will really want you to know which work is theirs, but some don't. For each of the activities that I've created, the first slide that I put in there is teacher notes. It's basically like the mini version of the lesson plan. And you can just read through there. I give ideas about questions that you can ask to keep the conversation going. And this one at the bottom has a little modification for your more advanced students. So here is one of the reasons why Desmos is gold. If I don't want my students to see this page, or I don't want them to look through all of the whole activity, I'm going to click on pacing, and I'm going to pick this screen 2 and restrict to screen 2. And now all my students who are logged in and the ones who join after will only be able to see this page. So we can take all the time we want to looking at these funny little, different facial features to help us express emotion. But when I'm done with this page and I want them to do something, I'm going to move them on to the next screen, which they can't see yet. Now, a student, you can see I have teacher view, so I'm going to be getting the responses coming in over here. But if I want to see what a student would see, I click student view, and this is what the student's going to see. Now, I like to put this up when I'm giving instructions so that I can point things out on my screen. So they're going to be labeling. They label by selecting the pencil tool. They can change the color. Or on this one, it's about typing. So they'll, add in a text box here. I probably want my text to be black. And they're going to type las cejas. How would they know that it's las cejas? Well, I, of course, gave them the little helper images below. It's just, we're doing this really quick right now, just so that as we're talking throughout the rest of the lesson about kind of what makes these emotions so expressive, that they've got like these couple of words that we can use together. This part should be super quick. So let's say I want to see how all of my students have done on their labeling. Maybe I have a couple advanced students who want to try the lines on this side, and all of my other normal students are just going to fill in a couple over here. It's all good. If I switch back to the teacher view, I'll see it populate all of the students' screens, and it happens in real time. So they don't have to submit it. They don't have to do anything special. As soon as they start typing or drawing or interacting with it, boom, it'll pop up. And if I click on the summary page, there'll be a list of all of the students, and there'll be a little dot if they've already started engaging and interacting with it. And if they haven't, if they're not doing squat, it will not have a dot. It'll be totally blank. And that information saves even after they've left class and you've shut her down for the day, so you can go back later and say, well, okay, this student interacted consistently throughout the whole thing, or this student was kind of on and off, not super consistent with their interactions. If I want to move us on to the next screen, I move us on. The student sees the next activity. ¿Cómo está? Describe a la persona. They can make their multiple choice selection for their best, what they think is the most likely that the emotion is. And for this activity, there's kind of a bump up option that if they say, está irritado, it's going to ask them to explain their thinking. And I'm telling them to explain your thinking. You're going to describe what the face is like. Cejas rectas. Ojos un poco cerrados o parcialmente cerrados o lo que sea. Boca cerrada. Punto. Oh, it's not a sentence. No punto. If they're more advanced, they can write more complex sentences. If they're not advanced enough that you want them interacting with that, just skip that part. They don't have to do anything there. Just tell them, when it says explain your thinking, don't. If I want them to have access to a couple at a time, like I want you to be able to do these 4 screens at your own pace, and then we'll talk about them. You can click the add button and it'll add a few more screens on. When you're done with the pacing and you just want it to be a total free-for-all, you can click stop. One of the activities here is this one where on the student view you can see it says dibuja una reacción apropiada. El maestro dice, no, tú no puedes ir al baño. ¿Cómo reaccionas tú? They're going to use the drawing tool, probably in black because it's easiest to see. That's what I coach them to do, to draw some sort of face, maybe copy one of those expressions, and then we can discuss it afterwards. In the teacher notes, I've given you some ideas about how you can do that. The trick is students want to keep drawing. They want to keep adding detail. And at a certain point, we got to say, no, now I need you to pay attention to the language that we're interacting with, to the language that I want you to hear. So when that happens, I'll give them like a 10-second countdown, and then I click pause. As soon as I click pause, they can't do anything else with their drawing. Or if they're writing, they can't do anything else with their writing. It's probably going to make them crazy. But it works out really slick. When you are finished with the activity, all they have to do is leave. And you can go back up here to the activity page. Where you can go back later. All of the sessions that you've had will show up here. It'll say how many students were in. You can, view the dashboard and see all of those responses after the fact. And if you had students who were absent, as long as you turn off pacing and you take off pause when you've closed it, students can go back after the fact and add their answers if they didn't get a chance to do it with the class. If it's something that you don't want them to have access to later, you can just change the student link, or you can just turn on pause indefinitely, and then they can't do anything with it. Okay. I hope that was a moderately decent intro to this. You can always copy and edit the activity if there's something you want to tweak, add, modify, and you can add it to your own collections, which are organized over here. And if you've made a copy of it to edit it, it'll go under custom. So when you want to make your own stuff later on, that is where you'll find it. And you can just go to teacher.desmos.com. Any questions, shoot me an email or hit me up on Facebook. And I look forward to doing this activity with you soon.